Look what I confiscated from one of the kids in pediatrics.
When you think of the TV show Scrubs, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Is it Dr. Cox endlessly ranting? Or maybe the janitor being ridiculous?
Who are you? Dr. Turk? I don't care.
That was unnecessarily mean.
For me, the first thing that always comes to mind when anyone mentions Scrubs is Turk. Larger than life, loud, passionate surgeon Turk. In his green scrubs, dancing, singing, screaming, having sincere conversations with terminal patients, bromancing with JD, and, well, you know. Scrubs is filled with what many consider to be the perfect blend of hilarious, absurd comedy, right up against powerful emotional scenes. And for this reason, it's difficult to solely classify the show as a comedy. You can tell the writers and producers spent a ton of time in the writer's room discussing really important interactions and nurturing relationships over time. It's why Scrubs is one of the most rewatchable shows. It literally has something for everyone. Slapstick humor, hospital drama, poignant speeches, and of course, scenes that rip your heart out and make you cry. When 95% of a TV show is light humor and 5% is powerful stuff, that 5% gives you the people's elbow right to the face.
Why is there a pancake in the silverware drawer?
I mean, why is there silverware in the pancake drawer?
Welcome back to another edition in our search for the greatest TV character ever. If you haven't seen my first 3 characters, you can check out the description below or my channel. In this video, we're going to take a deep look at Chris Turk, his character, personality, and measurable metrics, as compared to the characters we've analyzed before, and all the ones that will come after. But it's interesting. I almost forgot how funny Scrubs is. It holds this place in my mind as like an above average comedy that has some good sincere moments. But rewatching it recently, it's so much funnier than I remember. Like really, really funny.
So I'm about to go down to my truck, get my kayak paddle, and go Greg Barton on your ass.
Who's Greg Barton?
He's a famous kayaker.
Oh, Greg Barton!
I hate you, JD.
It embraces its goofiness and leans into it so hard. And the timing and deliveries on the jokes is just perfect. Scrubs premiered 3 weeks after 9/11, so I don't know how much the US was in the mood for a comedy like this. Some things didn't age that well, I'll say. Like, there's actually more than one scene of JD doing blackface, and literally the first joke in the pilot episode of the show is JD asking Turk if he's allowed to use the N-word while rapping.
Wow, dude!
I digress. Scrubs has some of the funniest moments in TV history by actors who weren't known, really known. But that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about Turk.
Are you a good pianist?
Pianist.
So let's ask the question, is Turk the greatest TV character ever?
We were the ones that hit your car with that golf ball.
Well, technically it was Dr. Turk.
You? Liar. Okay, it was you.
You know what? It really doesn't matter.
Christopher Duncan Turk was born on June 22nd, 1974, which puts him in his mid to late 20s at the start of the show. We don't actually know where Turk was born, and we don't get a lot of info about his life before the show. Procedural shows like this don't put a ton of emphasis on a character's background, but more about their choices and personalities and their growth on the show. You can sometimes glean small details over a show's run, and we do get that with Turk. He has a brother, he went to med school and lived with JD for years before the show starts, but we're not going to focus on that today. Instead of doing a full Turk background, why don't we look at a random and hilarious list of things that we learn about him through the show? I promise I'm not going to make any of these things up. Turk loves to tell JD when he has sex. Turk despises the Matrix movies. Turk is actually part Japanese. Turk loves, and I mean loves, pizza rolls. Turk hates the downstairs bump.
Still on my downstairs.
Turk gets the most wild nicknames throughout the show, including Chocolate Bear, SCB, Gandhi, Gumball, and my personal favorite.
You think my name is Turkleton?
And Mrs. Turkleton.
Turk actually named his testicles, and my personal favorite, his voice gets higher when he's naked.
Are you nude right now?
Yeah! How'd you know?
Your voice is always higher when you're nude.
JD, played by Zach Braff, who's really the main character of the show, met years before they started their internship at Sacred Heart. They're best friends. Best dorky friends.
Activate! Form of an ice menorah!
Turk is a strong-willed, stubborn, competitive, but caring surgeon that embraces a lot of the stereotypical surgeon qualities without ever feeling like a careless jock. He pretends to distance himself from patients and act tough like other surgeons, even though we see he's greatly affected by the struggles his patients endure. He has a larger-than-life sense of humor, making jokes at awful times, but finding humor in every situation. One aspect of Turk's character that doesn't get enough praise is his vulnerability. He is a black surgeon who hates being singled out for being black, but's undeniably proud of his heritage and culture. He loves to be seen as a provider who's tough and stoic, but at the same time, Turk's relationship with JD is incredibly important into showing us who he really is deep down. Intuitive, soft, empathetic, nurturing. Listen, men telling each other that they love each other, hugging, being open and touchy-feely is usually taboo in American culture. But Turk and JD break this barrier almost every episode, and it's great to show that there's nothing wrong with it at all.
I think one of the most successful things about the character of JD was that he showed men you could be silly and not into sports and effeminate's too strong a word, but in touch with your feminine side and want to hug men and have a best buddy that you were almost like two girlfriends with, but be straight.
It doesn't matter if you're black, white, gay or straight, or whatever you are. It's normal to talk about mushy things with your male friends and ask for a hug. Turk and JD radiate positive masculinity, and I'm here for it.
Christopher, looks like we have the makings of a dog pile here.
Turk, don't.
Sorry, dude. I got it.
Why is my husband being discharged?
Look, Mrs. Peel, we really cannot judge.
Is Turk an anti-hero? We've asked this question before on the channel, so let's ask it now. Anti-heroes are characters within stories that tend to lack conventional heroic traits. Hannibal Lecter, Tyler Durden, the Punisher. These are all central characters that have qualities and imperfections that distinguish themselves from typical heroes. And with this being said, I think it's clear. This could not be further from Turk. Turk is an amazing role model who saves lives and displays courage, heart, and determination. He inspires others around him to be better. Turk is definitely not an anti-hero. In fact, he's a hero. Speaking of heroes, this is also the character archetype I believe Turk fits into best. There are 12 defined character archetypes in literature and cinema, ranging from the lover, jester, everyman, and ruler. Turk falls into the hero archetype. They display courage, strength, and honor. They lift up those around them and fight challenges head on. Drawbacks of heroes are overconfidence and excessive hubris. This sounds like Turk. Yeah! Let's talk about Turk's motivations and Scrubs. What drives all his decision making throughout the show? First, and most importantly, it's to be the best at what he does. Turk is an ambitious, competitive surgeon who wants to dazzle people with his skill and accomplish more than anyone has before him. His goal is to be the chief of surgery, which, by the end of the show, he accomplishes. He's always trying to better his financial situation, impress his colleagues, and just be the best surgeon on the planet. His ambition is inspiring. But Turk's also really motivated to be a good family man and a good role model. He loves to keep his wife Carla happy. It's his main goal, to take care of his wife, his kids, and provide for them. There are several episodes where we see Turk stressing about being able to provide for Carla and his family. Turk is also motivated to build really strong relationships around him, with others at the hospital, with those he mentors, with his patients, and of course, JD. I mentioned it earlier, but the friendship that Turk and JD have and the way they open up is something we could all learn from. From the first episode to the last season of the show, we see Turk and JD building one of the strongest friendships in all of TV we've seen. They sometimes feud and irritate each other, but they also forgive and grow stronger. The final part of the character analysis is determining whether Chris Turk is a dynamic or static character. Dynamic characters go through personal interchanges in a story, while static don't. Turk does end as a chief of surgery, a father, a husband, which he didn't start. But is he really a different man with different personality traits? Absolutely not. He's the same energetic, charismatic person that he has always been. He might be a little bit more mature and mellow later in the show, but Turk is a static character through and through. Let's now do a full personality analysis of Turk Turkleton. We will hit several main categories: overall intelligence, intelligence types, the Wonderlic assessment, Myers-Briggs, and the Neo-PIR. First up, overall IQ, or intelligence quotient. IQ is a number that represents an individual's problem-solving and reasoning ability. Essentially, how smart are you? And while an IQ number is not fully representative of overall intelligence and success, it's interesting to look at. 100 is the average. Roughly 95% of the population fall between 70 and 130. What would Turk's IQ be?
1, 2... Better? Yes?
We're never told what it is in the show, so let's make some inferences. Turk has an excellent amount of technical knowledge and surgical ability. He can problem solve, diagnose, and delegate. Turk is smart. We fell in love with Turk because he's hilarious and passionate, and connects really well with others. We don't necessarily think of intelligence as the first trait to describe him, but he's an accomplished surgeon who has spent many years mastering his craft. I put Turk at 115 IQ, or about the 84th percentile. Now that we know Turk's IQ, let's hypothesize how he might do on an IQ test. The Wonderlic exam is a popular IQ exam that tests the examinee's cognitive and problem-solving abilities. Test takers can score 0 to 50, where 20 is the average. I think Turk would do really well on this type of exam. He's a doctor, after all, and has spent pretty much his entire life taking tests to get where he is. And because we've established that Turk has well above average IQ, I believe he'd score a 33, which would put his percentile for the Wonderlic at 93%. You might think, why is it higher than his IQ percentile? And the reason is, Turk's a veteran problem solver and test taker. He has spent decades taking tests and learning how to master this skill. I believe he'd score above what his overall IQ would normally suggest. Now that we've seen Turk's IQ and overall intelligence, let's break down his intelligence into 9 different subgroups, as you see before you. I believe Turk's pretty gifted in several areas. Let's rate him in each of these 9 categories, from 1 to 10, and see how he compares with all our other characters. Spatial intelligence is the concept of being able to successfully perceive and derive insight from visual data. Being able to contemplate 3-dimensional models in your mind, or being able to give good directions. Surgeons would need to have excellent spatial intelligence to perform and navigate the human body. Turk is a far above average talented surgeon, as we come to learn through the show, so we can infer that his spatial intelligence is probably much higher than average. With this information, I'll give Turk a 9. Naturalist intelligence is the ability to identify and be familiar with plants, animals, the earth, and other things in the environment. A gardener, herbalist, or zoologist would have high naturalist intelligence. Turk doesn't really demonstrate connectivity with nature. He doesn't seem to be more knowledgeable than the average person in a nature-related topic. This one would be hard to define, so I'm going to give him an average, 5. Musical intelligence. The ability to discern pitch, tone, and rhythm. And of course, be skilled with instruments. You're able to pick it up fast and master it quickly. Turk loves music. He has an amazing voice, excellent rhythm. He can play the guitar, piano, and beatbox. Whether it's seeing him in an air guitar band, dance his heart out, or sing, Turk is definitely a gifted musician, almost as much as he is a surgeon. Turk gets a 9. Logical mathematical is the ability to analyze situations or problems and identify solutions. Turk has to use this type of intelligence on a daily basis to be chief of surgery. He has to diagnose patients, analyze symptoms, gather data, perform really complicated surgeries, and brainstorm intricate solutions for patients. Turk has shown an accomplished aptitude for this. Turk gets an 8. Existential intelligence is the ability to contemplate and understand the philosophical questions about the meaning of life and existence. And while Turk is religious and spiritual and an empathetic guy, the show doesn't show a lot of instances where Turk has greater than average existential intelligence. He's not contemplative or philosophical, and maybe struggles to find the deeper meaning at times. I don't think he's necessarily below average, but we don't see it above. Turk gets a 5. Interpersonal intelligence is the ability to understand and interact effectively with those around you. Turk is really outgoing. He's a good communicator and really easily connects with others around him. He's easily one of the most talkative, social characters on Scrubs. And while sometimes his competitiveness and overambitiousness can be a bit much, it's impossible not to love him, and every viewer secretly wishes they could be his friend. Turk gets an 8. Bodily kinesthetic intelligence is a mastery over one's physical abilities. Dancers, surgeons, boxers. They can manipulate the world around them and perform physical tasks with ease. Turk's a skilled surgeon, which requires a lot of dexterity and precision. We also learn he's an excellent athlete playing college football and basketball, and we even see him play the drums. Turk is also in great shape, constantly working out of the show. And while he isn't necessarily a professional athlete, he's way above average. Turk gets an 8. Linguistic intelligence refers to an individual's ability to use language effectively, both orally and written. I'm torn here. Turk's a great listener, especially with JD, and we do see him learn Spanish later in the show, much to the surprise of Carla. But he's not excessively gifted. He often has trouble conveying his feelings and ideas, which can lead to conflicts on the show. Turk gets a 5. The final intelligence type, intrapersonal intelligence, is the ability to control and understand one's own emotions. Turk is shown to be very self-aware and introspective. He's able to control his emotions, whether it be for his family, friends, and patients. He's able to recognize and manage his own emotions and cope with stress in healthy ways. Turk gets a 7. And here's a summary. Now, let's analyze Turk's personality through the Myers-Briggs type indicator, also known as MBTI. I've explained this in the past, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. Just know that Turk will fit into one of 16 personality categories. Turk fits into the ESTP category, known as the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are people persons, quick-witted and flexible. They're overly confident, great leaders, and extremely charming. Turk fits all of this to a T, and is an entrepreneur. I mean, he's a doctor, but you know. Let's now analyze Turk on a different type of personality scale, the Neo-PIR. The Neo-PIR, or 5-factor model, is a set of 5 broad trait dimensions, often referred to as the Big 5. openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, neuroticism, and agreeableness. Let's look at Turk on each of these 5 and rank what his assumed percentile might be, as compared to the other characters that we've looked at so far. The first trait, openness to experience, manifests as high intellectual curiosity. Individuals that like to try new things and hold unconventional beliefs. Drugs, sex, experimenting, learning new hobbies. I think Turk harbors some of these traits, so I think he's going to be above average. He seems to love to try new things, such as new hobbies, or even learning a new language. Turk also is an open-minded and non-judgmental person, especially of their decisions. He's open to things. Turk falls into the 65th percentile for openness to experience. Conscientiousness is the measure of an individual's self-discipline and awareness of how they impact others. Individuals who rate high in this metric tend to stay organized, are great planners, and think before they act. Turk could go either way on this one. He's not a selfish person and is incredibly self-disciplined, but he doesn't necessarily plan things out ahead of time and can be more rash with some of his decision-making. He cares for his patients very deeply, don't mistake me, but he doesn't always have everyone's emotional heartbeat. I put Turk at the 50th percentile for conscientiousness. The third trait is extroversion. Extroversion is the measure of how social, energetic, and engaged in the outside world one is. Extroverts love to talk and be around other people, while introverts love to be less social and isolate themselves more. This shouldn't come as a surprise. Turk is extremely extroverted. He's probably the most social, outgoing, energetic person on the entire show. He loves to party, be around others, and is undeniably charming. I put Turk at the 95th percentile for extroversion. The fourth factor of the Neo-PIR is agreeableness. Individuals with high agreeableness are warm, approachable, and friendly. Empathetic people. Nice people. Turk is a friendly person who values strong relationships and is a nice guy. I think he's someone you would feel comfortable walking up and talking to, maybe asking for help. And while he can be a little intimidating because he's really competitive, I think he's still a really, really friendly person. I put Turk at the 75th percentile for agreeableness. The fifth and final factor of the Neo-PIR is neuroticism, which manifests as negative emotions. Anger, fear, anxiety, self-doubt, and jealousy. Elliot Reed is a great example of a character on Scrubs that is probably in the top 1% of all neurotic characters on TV. We see her cry, get emotional, laugh, and doubt herself all at the drop of a pin. Turk almost seems to be the opposite of this. And while we do see him scream and laugh, we don't really see him show fear, doubt, or jealousy. Not usually. He's sure of himself and isn't controlled by negative emotions. Turk falls into the 20th percentile for neuroticism. It's been entertaining and fun to look at Turk's personality through several different lenses, comparing him to House, Elizabeth Jennings, Jesse, but that's not the main reason we're here. The goal of this video series is to not only give us background and compare personalities of our favorite characters, but to measure each one of them on the same metrics to see who is the greatest. By doing this, we'll get a single overall grade we can apply to each character and definitively say, is this the best ever? I'll try to be as objective as possible, as usual. You might not agree with some or even most of what I say, and that's totally okay. We'll be looking at 6 different categories of dimensions and give Turk a rank on each, from 1 to 10. However, of these 6 categories, not all of them will carry the same weight. Some metrics will be more important than others, and the scores of those should reflect that. Here, let's look at it a different way. 6 dimensions, 3 different weight categories. The yellow middleweight category, normal weight, will be out of 10 points each. The second green category, or half weight, will be out of half the points. So for example, if Turk scores an 8 out of 10 here, it'll get him 4 points towards his overall grade. And the third final category, red, the double weight, gets Turk double points. If Turk gets a 7 out of 10 on one of these categories, it'll net him 14 total points. The maximum score is out of 70. Here are the other 3 characters we've looked at and their scores. The first category, the normal weight, is awards. We're not looking to see Scrubs as a whole, but Donald Faison's performance in the show. Was it recognized by the Academy and other award bodies? The simple answer, not really. Scrubs wasn't the type of show that was going to sweep nomination and award categories, being a sitcom comedy type like this. There's a huge following that loves and cherishes the show, and it's widely considered one of the funniest, most accurate medical shows to date. Donald did win several BET and Teen Choice Awards, and received a lot of NAACP nominations, but didn't receive Emmy or Golden Globe nods in 8 seasons. Let's now look at the first double weight category, performance. How great of a performance did Donald Faison have on the show? Let's look at this objectively. Chris Turk is an awesome character. He's funny, engaging, and very disarming with his humor, but also knows when to be sincere. He's a unique character. Donald really nails a lot of things in his portrayal of Turk. He brings an amazing physical presence through dancing, timing, posture, and of course, excellent physical comedy.
Because I put a release button right here on top.
Turk is authentic and down to earth. He feels like a real person that we come to know and love, not just a character on the show. I know Donald has been in other things since Scrubs, but honestly, name a role he's better known for. The first half-weight category is the carry factor. Simply put, how much did Chris Turk carry this series? Is the show solely about him, and did his performance and character shoulder the load? Scrubs works because of its ensemble cast and their chemistry together. We've got JD, Dr. Cox, Carla, Elliot, the janitor, Ted, and so many more. All of whom are unique, who share screen time, and all really kill it. Let's now look at the second normal weight category, show presence, which really is just a fancy term to determine how popular and high quality a show is. How much of an imprint does a show leave on the cultural zeitgeist? This one is interesting. If you want to talk about Scrubs as a show in terms of popularity, it's revered and loved by all who watch it. You won't hear someone say, "Oh, I really hate Scrubs." It's a solid addition to the all-time library catalog of really good TV shows and comedies. For 8 seasons, yes, I said 8.
I'm really disappointed in you guys.
Hey, what is this show? This show looks okay.
Huh?
It got knocked to another network in season 8 and renewed for an abysmal season 9. If we want to talk about television as an art form and the most intricate, nuanced, graceful shows, we won't find it here.
You know, Doctor, I'm getting a little tired of the sexual innuendo.
In your endo.
The second half-weight category we're measuring Turk on now is uniqueness. We want to gauge how unlike other TV show characters Turk is. I think this is where he really stands out. Turk is a multi-dimensional character that doesn't just fill a single hole on the show. He's a black surgeon, which was not as common at the time as you think, and his personality and quirks are his defining characteristics, not his race. Scrubs was ahead of its time when it aired. Turk is charming, funny, and unashamed of being affectionate towards others. The final category is writing quality. Now, what do we mean when we say writing quality in relation to a character? Does it mean we write a compelling, unique, relatable person? One that goes through trials and tribulations and makes sense in the context of the show? Listen, Turk is a well-developed and complicated character that was given a distinctive voice and personality throughout every season of the show. The writers, and of course Donald, gave him a really unique sense of humor and a passion that never really wavers. We relate to his struggles of balancing his personal and professional life. And while we don't get that much background on him prior to the show, it doesn't matter. He wins us over. Watching his unique dedication and quirkiness that never gets old through 8 seasons is more than enough for us. So Turk gets a 44, or a 63%. If we take a look at the leaderboard, that puts him in last place of all 4 characters we've looked at so far. Listen, 44 might seem a bit underwhelming, but I don't see this necessarily as an awful score. Saying Scrubs has the greatest TV character ever is probably false by anyone's standard. But we're having fun exploring different genres, show types, and universes. One of the greatest things about Scrubs is its ability to balance comedy and really serious emotional moments. The show is definitely known for its clever and witty humor, but it also tackles complex topics such as death, illness, and addiction with utmost sincerity. And we connect to the characters better on this than almost any other show. Turk is so confident and full of life. His vulnerability makes him so accessible and relatable. His dynamic with JD has to be probably one of the greatest bromances in the history of television. Yes, House, I know that's disrespectful.
Don't make me slap you.
As I've mentioned previously on the channel, Scrubs is my personal comfort show. Like grabbing a pint of ice cream from the fridge. Scrubs has helped me feel safe and comforted after some personal hardships or long days. And Turk, for me, is the shining star of this show. And while he isn't necessarily the best, his humanity, humor, hubris, and honesty have a special place in all our hearts. A little bit of an update about the future of this channel. I'm going to publish one more video about another character, and we're going to have kind of a brief summary video. It'll be much shorter, probably between 10 to 20 minutes, where we're going to talk about the 5 characters we've looked at so far, and kind of go into a couple unique topics. I might discuss some extra assessments I might be going forward with for future characters. Then, we'll start the next batch of characters. I already have my 5th and 6th written, and I'm working on the videos now. I think you'll all be happy. Thank you guys again. I really appreciate the support.